Okay, so welcome Ollie to Escape the Rat Race Radio. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm very well. How are you?
Excellent. It's really, really good to see you. We actually bumped into each other last week, didn't we, at
Yeah.
Expert Empires in London, which was Nick James's event. And we saw Grant Cardone, Ryan Dyson, some really excellent marketers and entrepreneurs sharing all of their successes. And I'm looking forward to hearing yours today as well.
Well, yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on. It's an absolute privilege to be asked to do something.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Ollie, kick us off then. Tell everyone listening what business you're in right now and what specifically that involves day to day.
Yes, so I'm full-time in the world of property. Specifically, we create high-end HMOs in Crawley, Gatwick. And for anyone who doesn't know what HMOs are, they're houses where people rent the rooms instead of the whole house. So you could have 5 or 6 people in one household who all share a kitchen and communal areas but have their own bathrooms. As an example, I mean, there's various models to them. So, but day to day, it can be hunting for suitable properties for investors, designing them, project managing them, anything to do with lettings, investor meetings like we've had all morning today, networking, creating videos, content, all that sort of stuff.
Wow.
So it depends on.
Sounds super exciting, very varied, brilliant. So as in all our escapees interviews, we're going to break it down into 3 parts, and we're starting with where you were, then where you are now, and where you want to get to. So let's start with telling our listeners where you used to work, Ollie, and what you used to do.
Okay. Yeah. So the last job that I was in was working in the corporate sector in IT, working for a data center company called Migsolve, and I was in a sales position. Because I knew that sales is quite an important skill to have as an entrepreneur. So I, ventured into that branch or avenue.
Okay, great. And at what point did you realize that you didn't want to stay working for someone else any longer? And what were the first steps that you took to kind of set about changing that situation?
Yeah, so I mean, all along, me and my partner Alicia, we were not really enjoying our jobs. We both knew we could deliver more, and we were being held back in many respects. We both went for positions and didn't get them. However, I did actually get a position created for me because they thought it was a deputy position instead of a manager's position. But it was this whole process of someone else deciding what you can or can't do. It just kind of bothered us. So we decided that we didn't want to control anyone else, but we didn't want to be controlled anymore. So, the same with holidays, putting in your holidays and potentially getting it depending if someone else has put it in. It was just a faff. So we both always knew we wanted to get into property in some way and have our own businesses. So when an email landed in my inbox for a free property event, we went along and our path into property started from there.
Yeah. So for many people, I know it's often that overwhelm of knowing that you don't want to do the same thing, but not quite sure what else to do. So property obviously there caught your interest. So, how did you kind of then take the next steps and how did you get to a position where you sort of knew that was going to be a viable option to actually, escape the rat race?
Okay. Yeah. Good question. It's all about education, really, isn't it? We did some property courses. We became sort of educated, I guess, in that respect, got some basic knowledge. We were exposed to the world of self-development, reading that little book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure many of you have read. And just after reading that, became unemployable just because it completely changed my mindset. But like I said, we always wanted to get into property. So we knew that was the way we wanted to go. So it was all about just getting started, really. And we started with a simple buy-to-let project and sort of grew it from there, quickly going into the HMOs and starting a second synergistic business, the letting business, to manage our properties. So
yeah. And that's where we first met, isn't it? And Alicia as well. I think that was back in 2014. So it just shows, that it does take a few years. People who want to escape the rat race and just think it can happen overnight, you need to put in the time, you need to be consistent, and you need to understand that it's not going to happen straight away. But
completely agree.
So for you then, Ollie, what were the critical decisions that you had to make, or the parameters that you set yourself to help you decide exactly when was the right time to actually quit your job?
Yeah, so that is a great question. So our portfolio grew to 1 buy-to-let and 2 HMOs, which I was doing all the lettings myself whilst working full time. And so this was bringing in some money, but we really wanted to push the letting business, as we knew that if we got a couple more clients, it would mean that the letting business, it means that both me and Alicia could quit our jobs and go into property full time quicker. However, quitting at that point meant that we'd be losing money every month, but I think it was about £800 or £900 a month. So it's quite a big decision. But at the time, last year, we were in an amazing mastermind group being mentored by Rob Stewart and John Paul. I think, you know.
Yeah.
And I've got a story here to say that if you're not in a mastermind group of some sort, you really are missing out. A really good mastermind group is so invaluable. The connections we made and the things we learned were just so crucial in helping us move forward. But yeah, anyway, it was decided that taking out a £15,000 loan to live off, which I got at 3%, is basically free money, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was what was needed to be able to concentrate on growing the letting business. So people around me thought I was absolutely crazy, especially people at work and my mum. But we kind of knew it was the right time. You know, I felt really excited. It felt exactly the right time to do it. And as the foundations we had laid over the last 3 years, at that point were really solid. And so hand on heart, I had no fear in doing it. I was jumping at the gun to really try and have the opportunity to do this. And we were doing our vlog at the time. So we've recorded all of this on YouTube so you can see my mum's reaction. Quite funny.
Brilliant. No, I think that's great for people to hear, because, you know, it's very difficult sometimes knowing, you know, do you wait until income's at a certain level, or do you just take that kind of leap of faith, knowing that once you've got all your time to focus 100% on your business, that things are going to really accelerate much, much faster that way?
I mean, I've got 2 kids, a mortgage, and so it really had to be a calculated risk built on those solid foundations and putting in the effort over the last 3 years. It wasn't, you know, someone listening might think, oh, you've taken £15,000 out and really jumped into it. But no, it was a very calculated risk.
Yeah, great. So let's move straight into part 2 then. Where are you now? So, Ollie, how long ago is it now since you quit the rat race? And can you remember your escape the rat race date?
Yes, I can. So it's been just under a year. It was Thursday, the 15th of June. So nearly a year now. I handed my notice in on a Monday, and because I was in a sales role, they got rid of me by Thursday. So it was brilliant. It was a really good handover. So yeah, nearly a year.
Cool. And can you share with us 3 of the biggest realizations that you've had since transitioning from being an employee to becoming a business owner?
Yeah. So again, I think it's a really good question, that. And so 3 things jumped out at me straight away. And the first one is, and you probably heard it all before, but how you do anything is how you do everything. Because over the past 4 years, I became more and more disheartened with the day job. So all I wanted to do was property. And I've always been pretty bad at doing things that I didn't like doing. And I'm a strong believer in changing something if you're not happy. But I had to keep the steady income of the job in order to ensure things didn't slip in the 2 businesses that we were building. So in these jobs, I saw myself becoming more and more lazy, and sort of others close to me say they think it was a combination of me working full time, studying for a degree with the Open University, building the property businesses and having children. But whether that did play a part or not, when I left the job last year, I really struggled for 2 months. I had really bad habits, and they transferred. I was almost performing at a bare minimum level. It's not really the level I like to perform at, but it was, you know, I was trying to conserve my energy during the day to be able to do all the work at night. And so, yeah, it wasn't good. So if you're currently in your job wanting to escape, don't perform any less than you would in your own business, as if you do, bad habits, including being lazy, are just so easy to form and hard to break. And I guarantee your overall performance, it just will drop. And I had little to no accountability, and I didn't hold myself to account either. Which leads me into my second realization, which is owning 100% responsibility. So in those first 2 months of leaving my job, I kept blaming other people for my shortcomings, and mainly Alicia. It's obviously a huge challenge in itself working with a business partner, let alone a life partner, which is obviously what she is. But I was finding fault in the things that she was or wasn't doing instead of focusing on the things I was or wasn't doing. And to give a bit of backstory whilst keeping it as concise as possible, up until this point, I was involved in building our portfolio, but it was mainly Alicia, as I was working full time and bringing the money in while she worked part time. And I did pretty much everything, or she did pretty much everything other than the letting. So this is going a bit deep, actually, and I don't think I've actually shared this outside my mastermind group, but I really had to go back through my life and analyse my childhood and how I was brought up, you know, kind of what's the word, going through therapy by myself, I guess, like going through the school years, early 20s, the jobs I'd had, and I had to let go of things that were holding me back to be able to move forward. And I came to the conclusion that it was a combination of the way that my mum raised me by doing everything for me, which obviously was the best, with best intentions at heart, and almost having another woman, Alicia, who was extremely close to me, doing everything again. And I quit my job to build the letting business alone, but I was getting annoyed at Alicia for not doing this with me too. And it was a really rough couple of months, but I got through it. And I like to think that, you know, one of my strengths is being self-aware and being open-minded and listening to those around me. But in this time, I had to own 100% responsibility, because no one was going to do this for me. If I didn't give myself 100% permission to really go for it, it just wasn't working. So you're 100% in control of everything yourself. And when you realize that and you begin to take control, that's when the magic happens, which leads me into my third and final realization, which is discipline. And you've got to have it. You've got to plan your days. You've got to, more importantly, execute on those plans consistently, even when you can't be bothered. And you have to be self-aware and honest with yourself. Are you doing the biggest income producing activities or jobs that move you towards your goal, not the busy jobs that need doing but aren't ultimately moving you forward, and that can be done later in the day when you're not at your peak performance? So yeah, they're my three realizations.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that, Ollie. And I can totally understand, you know, it is a big shift from the employee mindset to the entrepreneur mindset. And I think the personal development, looking at yourself and looking at the faults and the weaknesses, and it sounds like you had to go through that in order to move on to the next stage. And you certainly have done that. So Ollie, tell us, what's the best thing? What do you love most about having your own business?
Yeah, so there's so many things I love, but if I had to pick one, it's the journey. As cheesy as it sounds, there are some real lows which really test you and really do build your character and strength of mind or mindset resilience, whatever you want to call it. But then the highs are just so amazing, and the energy levels when things are going really well, they're incredible. So you've got to enjoy the ride. Don't let the lows beat you, and learn from every experience, and just always keep on moving forward.
That's it. You better enjoy roller coasters, because it certainly is a ride. So part 3, Ollie, where you want to get to. So did you set yourself any goals or targets when you decided to leave your job and start your own business, and have you reached them yet?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, when I left my job, the goal was to grow the letting business, but I started doing that and ended up growing the other business. So the letting business has almost doubled now. It has doubled, and it will double again by the end of the year. So because they're such synergistic businesses, it's crazy the growth that then happens. So it's very difficult setting goals, I find. I guess I won't go off on too much of a tangent, but you do set these goals and they always take longer than you think. So the key is to not get disheartened. And, you know, you've heard it all before, but don't set stretch goals, but don't get there's a sweet spot, isn't there, of setting goals, and just keep on moving forward. But yeah, we sort of set goals. We've exceeded them, but unintentionally, I guess.
And do you feel like you've got a greater potential to reach your bigger life goals now, you and Alicia, now that you've got more control over your time?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah, you've got so much more clarity, focused mind space when doing things like this, and you've got more energy. And I think the key is that when you're in the trenches doing the stuff day to day, it's hard to see, you know, the future. But as you keep just moving forward and building businesses, and it just unfolds, and then you have so much more opportunity to do. You know, I spend so much time with my kids now. It's amazing.
Yeah. So you're a year in, you've got the experience behind you. So what do you think, Ollie, is going to be the most important thing over the next 12 months to help you keep progressing forwards?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer that what you've done to grow to a certain stage won't help you to progress to the next stage. So I'm always looking at improving the way I work, changing routines, thinking bigger, working on mindset, you know, thinking outside the box, pushing myself, you know, outside your comfort zone, and just pushing yourself and being surrounded yourself with like-minded people, but also ensuring that things that you've learned and the good habits don't slip, like being disciplined. So, you know, getting that balance of always pushing, but compounding on what you've learned as well.
Wow. Well, it's been fantastic. The little, you know, fast track through your journey from employee to business owner and beyond. Ollie, for anyone who's listening now, who's been inspired by your words and your story there, they're squashed up on that train, they're in the traffic jam, they're in the rat race where you were just over 12 months ago. What would be your words of advice for them if maybe that fear is still holding them back from taking that leap?
Yeah, so great question. I think for people right at the start now if you haven't already. You've probably heard it all before, but those small steps that you can take daily, weekly, they really do compound, and it gives you such motivation to carry on. And you're probably going to have to go through maybe a few different strategies to figure out what is right for you. But if you're a little further along than that, as I'm fairly cautious, I used my fear to ensure that we built a platform that was so solid and really ready for growth before deciding to escape. That once you've got all the systems in place, it will allow for this growth. You know when the time is right to make the jump and take that calculated risk, which at that point should be de-risked. Yeah, so that's my advice.
And don't do it alone. As you said already, get people around you. So important. Yeah. Excellent. Ollie, you've been an amazing escapee guest today. Thanks so much for sharing your story. I know Alicia's hiding in the background. We're going to have to get her on the show as well in the forthcoming few weeks. So thank you. So and I look forward to seeing you at Escape the Rat Race event very soon.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye, everyone.